Hello again. I'm sure that we all remember what ultimately led to the resignation of Margaret Thatcher as Prime Minister, a little over 30 years ago. It was not any of her more awful actions, but something which at the time she saw as a minor reform of the old rates system. This was, of course, the famous poll tax, which would have levied council tax upon every individual rather than being related to property. Many people refused to pay, and this protest movement culminated in a riot in Trafalgar Square in 1990. Later that same year, Thatcher resigned, having been brought down in effect by a popular uprising against an unjust policy which imposed a financial hardship on many people. Millions of people simply refused to pay the poll tax, and it was clear that something had to be done, and it was scrapped. Now there's an attempt to do something similar with gas and electricity prices. In March this year, average energy costs in Britain were £1,277 per household. It is predicted that by January this will have risen to £3,615. In other words, gas and electricity prices will have tripled in 9 months. It is estimated that this could leave a third of the households in the country in what is known as fuel poverty, that is to say, unable to pay the gas and electricity bills. The aim of the new Don't Pay campaign, to which I provide a link in the description to this video, is for people to simply refuse to pay their bills when the next ones arrive on October the 1st. This would place the government in a very tricky position. So far, 13,000 people have signed up to Don't Pay, and the numbers doing so are growing exponentially. At the height of the poll tax protests, around 17 million people in this country were not paying the tax, and this seemed to be the point at which the protest went critical, as you might say, with riots and unprecedented political pressure which brought down the Prime Minister. It is hoped that the Don't Pay campaign will also reach some kind of critical mass by the end of September, which it is thought could lead to at least 1 million households refusing to pay their bills. What would happen then is anybody's guess. The utility companies are already warning that this could harm the credit rating of individuals, and they're working out a way of offering payment plans so that the cost of energy can be staggered over a period of years. Ultimately, though, if people carry on refusing to cooperate and pay their bills, what will happen? It's hard to see the government simply standing by if hundreds of thousands of homes had the gas and electricity cut off in the middle of winter. I don't think that's going to happen. They would have to do something. At the moment, not paying one's bills is socially unacceptable, and most people look askance at those who take something and then don't pay for it. During the poll tax protests in 1990, though, that changed, and it was felt to be quite respectable and perfectly acceptable to refuse to pay the poll tax. It was at this moment that the government knew that they were obliged to change tack. The hope of those organising the Don't Pay campaign is that something very similar will happen this winter, where many people will be literally unable to afford to pay the gas bill. Although there are, of course, world events affecting the price of gas and oil over which we have no control, the war in Ukraine, for instance, the main problem is that successive British governments have closed down all the coal mines, stopped drilling for oil in the North Sea, refused to start fracking for cheap shale gas, and setting their faces against building any new nuclear power stations. The net zero agenda plays a large part in this. We do not need to be in this position. It's a result of poor choices by governments over the last 20 or 30 years. I shall be interested to see what happens if this movement gathers strength and hundreds of thousands of people simply refuse to pay their bills in a couple of months' time. One thing is certain, the government will be obliged to act.